All right, thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for staying behind for this interesting session. I'm sure by now, most of us do have ChatGPT on our phones. You have Gemini, you have Copilot, depending on what suits your interest. Some of us have generated interesting animated pictures and videos using AI. And the conversation is becoming more interesting. There's a lot of great and amazing things happening with artificial intelligence. And that's why this conversation is interesting for us to have now and really see how practically as a country we can drive practical solutions and have practical approaches to the use of artificial intelligence. It's gradually moving to an era where artificial intelligence is not something that we can afford to shy away from. It's like the internet revolution. I remember having a chat with one of the first ladies, and she was like, this AI thing, I don't know. And that's why we need to talk about it, because it's a force that we cannot resist. It's here to stay. We can only shy away from it, but the more we shy away from it, the more we become disadvantaged. So it's good that we're having this kind of conversation that can help us shape our national destiny on the use of AI and how we engage and how we drive this and how we ensure inclusion in the use of artificial intelligence. So as we go on in this session, we'll be having a keynote address from one of, he's Nigerian, but he's currently based out of Canada and also a professor at the university in South Africa. I will read his bio, and I'm expecting that he's here already. All right, so we have a keynote address to start this session, and then we go into the panel discussion. Just confirming that all our panelists are around. Dolapo, Agbede, Chioma, Agwuegbo. All right, good. Thank you. You can see them. Dr. Lushola Said Ayola. Just confirming that everyone is in the room, so that as soon as we finish the keynote address, we would have the panelists come up stage. Thank you very much. But before I let it to Professor Fola Adeleke, I would quickly tell you who Professor Fola is. Are we together? Awesome. Are we together? I like robust engagement. I was telling people out here that I don't like quiet kind of things. I like the noise. All right. Okay, so Professor Adeleke is the Executive Director and Co-founder of the Global Center on AI Governance, and Fola definitely knows what it is when it comes to artificial intelligence globally. He leads the Knowledge Hub for the African Observatory on Responsible AI, ensuring countries all around the world, over 60 countries plus, are able to implement AI systems responsibly as a government and as a people. He holds a PhD in International Investment Law and Human Rights from the University of Witwatersrand and completed his postdoctoral research as a Fulbright Scholar of the Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment and Columbia University and Human Rights Program at the Harvard University. Fola is also an associate professor at the Wits Law School, South Africa, and Atlantic Senior Fellow on Social and Economic Equity at the London School of Economics. No other person better to talk about AI and equity at this time. He has previously served as co-chair on the Trust and Regulation Workstream for the development of South Africa's national AI strategy under the National Advisory Council on Innovation. And also he has served in various advisory teams, including the development of the Nigerian AI strategy and the African Commission and People Rights Study on Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights in Africa. He has led the development of a global partnership on AI report for government as a provider of data for AI in 2023. Fola is the course coordinator and convener for the Artificial Intelligence Ethics and Policy in Africa certificate program. I'm a student in that program starting in October. That's why I smiled. Fola is a member of the Nova Scotia Bar in Canada, and he has received several honors in the past, including the Mo Ibrahim Residential Fellow for Governance and Development at the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. It was quite a mouthful profile, right? So please, with an Abuja welcome, please do welcome Professor Fola Wait. That's not an Abuja welcome. That's not a Nigerian welcome. Fola hasn't been to Nigeria in a while. With a Nigerian welcome, please do welcome Professor Fola Adeleke. Put your hands together, please. Thank you. All right, over to you, Prof.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kakanfo. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today, and I do apologize that I am joining virtually. But I hope that in the 10 minutes that I have, despite the virtual engagement, we'll be able to have a substantive conversation around the necessity for AI governance. In 1986, there was this seminal research that was released where an author called Kranzberg wrote that technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. Almost 40 years later, that point about how technology shapes societies and how societies shape technology in turn is necessary for our understanding of the era of the digital economy, where AI and big data is reshaping our societies and regulation is struggling to grapple with the benefits and harms of big data. Now, several African countries, including Nigeria, have recently released a national AI strategy. In the last 7 years, 8 countries have released a national AI strategy. And even though AI strategies are not necessarily governance frameworks, they serve as a precursor to what a particular country might be thinking in terms of how to govern AI in the future. In Nigeria's AI strategy, which I participated in during the development of that strategy, there are important insights within it that speak to the necessity of ensuring the AI is used for sustainable development and the protection of human rights. But there are bigger questions that we need to think about when we see emerging national AI strategies and ask the question whether some of these strategies are trying to do everything everywhere all at once. Because you will see in some of these strategies the fact that they touch on all domains. They speak to technology infrastructure, they speak to cultural adaptation, they speak to economic transformation. And they also speak to this idea that AI should not be used or developed in a way that it harms people. But because it is so impressive in the scope that it intends to take, it fails to in some instances deliver meaningful change locally. And again, the fact that some of these strategies often have contradictions that can stall implementation means that the emerging governance of AI across the globe seems to not have any real coherence. And you will have seen that in other parts of the globe, there seems to be a pushback against the idea of regulation. So take, for example, at the AI summit that happened in France several months ago, the United States and the UK essentially turned their back against the idea of regulating AI. And the argument against the regulation of AI was this, that if you regulate AI too early, it can potentially stifle innovation. But you need to challenge that narrative about AI regulation or AI governance stifling innovation. Because a key area, for example, where the use of big data and the absence of effective regulation can potentially infringe human rights is digital surveillance. The use of big data in surveillance is referred to as data surveillance and involves the systematic monitoring of people or groups by means of digital information management systems in order to regulate or govern their behavior. At the heart of this concept of data surveillance is the ability of the developers and users of information management systems to control others. And such control is not exclusively a prerogative of government, but also includes multinational enterprises. Let's take an example of this, the fintech industry, which is growing across African countries. And one of the industry's primary financial products, mobile lending, uses algorithms to mine people's devices to assess their creditworthiness. While lending algorithms
are closely guarded secrets? Research shows that mobile lending companies believe all data is credit data, leading mobile lending companies to capitalize on poor people's debt and data. The discriminatory impact of data mining by these companies is enormous. The author of a book called The Black Box Society puts it this way: you can get into a death spiral by making one wrong move when algorithms amplify a bad data point and cause cascading effects. This example shows how private actors, even at a very small scale, when offering mobile lending, engage in data violence by controlling and regulating their clients' behavior through predictive analysis in their products. In another recent example, in January 2021, the Nigerian government launched the Rapid Response Register for COVID-19 cash transfers under the platform of the National Social Safety Net Project funded by the World Bank. The idea behind the RRR, as it is called, was designed to focus mainly on poor urban wards, selected using scientifically validated methods of satellite remote sensing technology, machine learning algorithm, and big data analysis. And the intention behind this RRR was to build a responsive framework for capturing the urban poor and vulnerable populations across Nigeria. To identify poor Nigerians who are going to be eligible for these cash transfers under the RRR, the lead office that was coordinating this project stated big data and machine learning algorithm was developed to use to assess geocoded ground truth data on household wealth. Now, the entire RRR process was automated and makes several assumptions that have exclusionary implications for urban poor Nigerians. For first, Nigerians were pre-selected on the basis of their ownership of a bank account. Then they must own mobile phones and have a level of literacy to understand the request for verification to become eligible for cash transfers. The absence of human verification and the qualification criteria raises issues around data bias and digital inequalities against groups of people who do not fit into the predetermined definition of the urban poor or the technological means to be identified through the big data analysis. There are several areas of concern relating to the RRR and the provision of government data for AI use, but the cumulative exclusion of millions of Nigerians from this process has been aided by the bias that fed into the development of this solution in the first place. So projects like the RRR, for example, which has some laudable intentions behind it, is an example of how seemingly innocuous projects aimed at benefiting data subjects can also have unintended consequences. They have implications for administrative justice, for data justice and digital inclusion, for transparency and accountability, and of course for privacy. And at the heart of this example I just gave is the false dichotomy between the necessity to integrate into a digital economy with the generation of more data on the one hand and the inevitable sacrifice of individual privacy that must be accepted as better data-driven technologies are developed. Underlying this false dichotomy is the role of governments and oversight of corporate actors driving this social change. The excitement of the digital economy lies in its ability to create new markets, addressing specific social development challenges and the lowering of transaction costs in social and economic interactions. However, while the digital economy offers so much promise, there are also challenges related to the digital development and regulatory challenges that states are still grappling with. As this are some of the examples that I just raised in the fintech industry and the RRR project in Nigeria. But there's the need to protect emerging AI startups in Nigeria and developing a robust ecosystem to enable them to thrive. There are several examples demonstrating attempts in Nigeria to tap into the growth of the digital economy. In a recent project launched by Data Science Nigeria, generative AI is being used to develop a Yoruba language voice-based chatbot for daily transaction reporting and financial decision making for informal traders, artisans, women, business owners, and smallholder farmers in Nigeria. The solution aims to help both the urban poor and rural-based Nigerians to use their voices in their local languages, to request guidance on making informed financial decisions, and to receive voice-based guidance in a manner similar to the growing use of WhatsApp voice notes in Nigeria for those who cannot read or write. This is a Nigerian success story and is an example of the need to focus our attention on the intersection of AI and data governance. To address the conundrum of AI governance and how best to introduce oversight without stifling innovation, we can focus on regulating the outcomes of AI systems rather than specific processes or technologies. This approach ensures that the governance of AI cannot be approached with a one-size-fits-all mentality. AI governance frameworks need to move beyond the dominant liberal and individualistic perspectives, which often ignore the unique challenges and dependencies that developing nations such as Nigeria face. We need to consider the specific paths of dependency that hegemonic capital can impose. Regulation can play a role in shaping equitable outcomes from AI development across the diverse African landscape and challenges us to consider how regulations can be engineered to promote fairness, inclusion, and sustainable growth. In addition to AI's opportunities, we must also consider how its potential benefits can be shared equitably to make AI an engine for development. We must also be mindful, like I said earlier in my introductory remarks, that technology itself is not noble. Consequently, we should explore the concept of outcomes-based regulation, which emphasizes defining the desired results rather than prescribing specific technological methods. In conclusion, it is important to recognize the specific areas where AI impacts regulation so that regulatory efforts can be targeted appropriately. This involves identifying the processes being changed by AI and the potential risks and opportunities that these changes bring. This allows regulators to be proactive and strategic in their regulatory approach, focusing on the most significant areas of concern. Also, given the broad scope of AI and its applications across different industries, a sectoral approach to regulation might be more effective. This means that rules should be tailored to specific sectors, such as healthcare, finance, or transportation, instead of trying to regulate AI as a single, monolithic entity. This approach allows for a more nuanced and context-specific approach. And I'll leave you with the one parting shot that we should also consider the use of regulatory sandboxes as a key tool for achieving an equitable governance model. Sandboxes enable states to co-design their governance frameworks with industry experts, facilitating innovation while allowing new regulations to be tested against unintended consequences. This collaborative approach is critical for an effective regulatory system, and I'm hopeful that we can begin to unpack some of the ways of implementing this in the further panel sessions we are going to be having. Thank you so much.
Put your hands together for Professor Fola Adeleke for the opening and setting the stage for this conversation. We all know that Nigeria is currently undergoing what we refer to as a digital transformation. If you do not know by now, I'm sure many of you have been forced to use apps to make your transactions. Many of you have been forced to use USSD codes, star 55, whatever it is. And that's all part of this digital transformation. And this gives us opportunity to deepen inclusive governance and accelerate development. There are a lot of innovations right now around digital identity, financial inclusion, e-government services. All of these are geared towards reshaping how we thrive as a nation. However, there are a lot of systemic challenges within the context of this innovation. And these systemic challenges oftentimes exclude women, oftentimes exclude young people and people with disabilities and people in rural populations. We face all these barriers in digital access every day, but it hasn't stopped the evolution of this innovation and the use of digital technologies around the world. That means that we need to have a conversation of how do we ensure that everyone is included in this. An example is what Dr. Fola, Professor Fola had highlighted. All of these platforms that we rely on and we use are considered to be literate-based platforms, and eliminating the fact that literacy can actually be in Yoruba, Hausa, or Igbo. Is anyone with me in the room? Yes. So this conversation we're about to have with our esteemed panelists would help us see how, as Nigerians, we can drive AI systems that are fair, that are trustworthy, that are aligned with our national equity-focused goals, supporting gender-responsive policies, and amplifying the underrepresented voices in governance and development. So on this note, I would like to invite our panelists to join upstage. I'm sorry I wouldn't go through all their profile, but you can always read it up on the agenda. And also, just before we go into that, I'd like to say thank you again to Professor Fola. Adeleke, put your hands together. It's quite early where he is. I'm sure he's woken up as early as 7, 8 a.m. To take this session. So thank you once again, Professor Fola. We will go into the panel discussion. I'd like to invite upstage, in no particular order, the founder and lead consultant of WillWay Paradigm, Dolapo Agbede. Put your hands together as she comes forward. Put your hands together. The problem is that we speak too much of this. I don't tell him, I say, I'll be straight. Make we clap. Can we put your hands together for Dolapo as she comes forward? All right, thank you very much. All right, the next is the Executive Director of TechHerNG, TechHerNG, Chioma Agwuegbo. Please put your hands together as we welcome Chioma upstage. Chioma, or our representative, TechHerNG. All right, while we wait for Chioma to join us, I'd also like to welcome the founder and CEO of Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Nigeria, RAIN, Dr. Olushola Ayola, to join us upstage. Please put your hands together. It's only people on this side that are clapping. Chioma, all right, thank you. All right, that was your clap, Chioma. All right, welcome again, founder and CEO of Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Nigeria, Dr. Olushola Ayola. Okay, what's Dr. Olushola? All right. All right, the last but not the least would be to welcome one of our very own, the lead of gender in PIC, Policy Innovation Center, Adekemi Omole. Please put your hands together as she comes up stage. All right, while we wait for Dr. Olushola, we would start the session, and I'll be glad to join them and take a couple of the questions. All right, while we go through this, we also want you to be able to engage. If you have questions, I'm sure a lot of us do have concerns about AI, artificial intelligence. No, she's the moderator. Yeah, I'll come in. All right, so if you have questions, please do get them ready. We will give opportunities for questions at intervals, so feel free to join us with your question as we go on. Thank you. Kakanfo, can you clap for me? All right, thank you very much for joining us today. Just a couple of questions, but before we go into those questions, there's a stark reality that we can't shy away from AI. And I'll try and make sure that it's an all-female panel. There's a stark reality that we can't all shy away from AI. The capitalization for artificial intelligence globally right now is scary. It's into billions of dollars, meaning that the world economy is gravitating towards AI. And the same thing is happening in Nigeria. But as this is happening, we also have it on one side that it will take Africa about a decade or more than a decade to close what we call the gender gap. There's a gender gap, and there's the digital gender gap. All right, to bring this home, the World Economic Forum in 2024 do rank Nigeria to be 130 out of the 146 countries in terms of the global gender gap, showing significant gaps in our economic participation and political empowerment. Now, with all of this currently within our ambits to deal with, then there's also the tech ecosystem that is booming. And even with the boom, only about 20% of this technological workforce is represented by women. Now, with all of this, we are now feeding AI with this data that is already underrepresented. When it comes to loan applications, the way that we hire in organizations, in media representations, there's still a lot of divide. And this is the data that we're giving to AI to help us chart the new pathway into the future. Now, there's this context I want us to start with. It's the context of, garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely.
Now, the context is bias in, bias out. Now, if we build Nigerians' AI future on a foundation of skilled data, beyond the inequalities that we're having to have dealt with, we are layering automation, complex algorithms on these skilled data. And I'd like these panelists to help us today. In no particular order, I'll start with Chioma. And this is my first question. How can we make sure that the AI systems that we are designing are designed to integrate gender equity and civic inclusion from the inception? Chioma, over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a bit of a tough question because we see AI as a magic bullet that will solve all our problems. My favorite example is INEC saying we will put in AI as if AI solves the trust problem or solves the trust deficit. And I also like to say that the problems you have offline will always present online because we're not living in separate realities, right? So to answer your question, we need to fix offline first. We can't have gender inequality offline and have gender equity online. It doesn't work that way. The systems that disenfranchise women, the panel before us talked about the reserved seats bill. The systems that disenfranchise women offline will disenfranchise them online. Absolutely. The systems that cause harm to women offline will cause harm to them online. And so first, I think there's got to be that honest reckoning and the acknowledgement of the fact that the systems that present today do not favor women. They are not, they don't make for our inclusion. Nigeria today doesn't have a gender and equal opportunities bill. The Violence Against Prohibition Act was passed in 2015. States were still domesticating up till 2024. Where in 2025, we still have one state that has said they are not going to domesticate. You can't talk about artificial intelligence if you don't have the basis for basic security, advancement, and progression of women and girls in Nigeria.
All right. I'd just like to pause you. You're not done yet. Hold it. Now, what you refer to mean that we need to pause everything that has to do with artificial intelligence? Is that what you're saying?
No. We can walk and chew gum, but we can't chew gum if we don't know the type of gum that we want, is the point I'm making. So while we're talking the talk and, AI sounds sweet, generative AI, ChatGPT, Claude, etc., those things are sweet to say, but we can't build without a foundation. And so I'm saying that while we're talking about and planning and visioning, we also have to recognize that there are deficits in the way we currently operate so that we don't exacerbate existing inequalities, because that's what artificial intelligence is going to do. The West is already disenfranchising the continent because there are existing inequalities. They are producing, we are consuming. We have no rights currently. We have pretty much no say. And we are actually losing, whether it's from the data gathering, whether it's from the LLMs that are learning, etc. We can't take, it's kind of like there's bad behavior outside, you bring it into your house, and then you have that bad behavior inside the house. So we can't keep talking about the West is doing this and doing that if we don't put in place what we need to ensure that we don't recreate that bad behavior at home. That's what I meant. All
right, thank you very much, Chioma. Dolapo, you want to add to that?
So for me, I would say that we need to, what was that you said, civic?
Inclusion.
We need to expand from civic inclusion to intersectional inclusion. Because I identify as a blind woman, for example. So in the civic space, if you do not look at the intersectionalities that double, triple impact the biases against people with disabilities, women with disabilities, youth with disabilities, users with disabilities, I mean, we were already in trouble, now we're in triple trouble. Then the other thing that I think the civic space, we need to intentionally promote, expand, fund AI solutions that could support access to education, political engagement, access to justice, and then, of course, access to work. Whatever it is that we're going to invest in needs to work for everyone. And as long as we continue to expand and we're a bit more intentional, to leave no one behind. And how do you even do that? Make sure that the end users, people like me, a person with albinism, a person who has dwarfism, the entire range of the diversities of impairments, we should be part of co-creating whatever it is that you are trying to give everyone. Make it universal from the beginning. Then you will not have to spend so much to put retrofits or patches, or you say, sorry, we'll do it later.
Thank you very much. So for those who are new to AI, AI is built on a data infrastructure. That means if the data is biased, the AI is biased. And I think that's essentially what they have emphasized on. So the underrepresentation that we face, now looking at her reminded me of the reason why I chatted with her last week. I haven't told her. So we're working on a gender-based violence prevention model, AI model, within our initiative. And then we've been looking for data. Every data that we have, none of them was balanced. So she's made a lot of effort, Invitos Nigeria, she's made a lot of effort to collect data all around the country, collecting extra data to make sure that there's inclusion and there's representation. So I thought, before we go ahead, we have to talk to her. Because if we go ahead, we will underrepresent
Women.
and deepen the bias. All right, so we would take this, and if you have questions, please note them, and then we're happy to have you come to the microphone for your questions. And I'll go to Kemi, and there's a lot of issues around this bias. I remember one time, Amazon had an AI recruiting tool that was particularly biased against women because the tool has taught itself to recognize more male-based way of learning and education, such that they were excluding women. And let me give you another example. It's not the machine that is the problem. It's not the AI that is the problem. It is the data that we have made available to the machine. I'll give you another example, and this one still intrigues me till today. In the economy where I live once in a while, they use a lot of Teslas. So the Tesla car, if a woman passes in front of the Tesla car, it will only show the image of a man. Yeah, you can check it online, check it out. I think it's still there till now, and they are trying to fix it. If a lady or a woman or a girl passes through, like, when people pass through, the cameras pick the image. It only shows the image, but it consistently shows the image of a male figure. Now, that's the data that have been fed into the machine to train the machine. Now, my question is going to go to Kemi, and then we all take a stab at it. Now, look at Nigeria. Our digital economy is exploding rapidly. It's projected that by the World Bank that there will be an injection of about 88 billion into our economy. We have one of the most vibrant fintech landscape and processing billions of dollars in transactions. All of them from as simple as OPay. We all use OPay, right? You guys forced me to use OPay and MoneyPoint. We all use OPay, MoneyPoint, processing billions of transactions. But what you do not understand is that this data is what will be used to assess your credit score. This data is what will be used for fraud detection and all that. And because the data is largely unregulated and there are no mandatory audits of this data, it means that we are literally going to be using this data to train how service is provided to you in the near future. All right, so my question is, what are the practical steps that we can use to drive governance mechanisms to ensure transparency, accountability, and ethical AI deployment in Nigeria, looking at the kind of data we already have? Kemi.
Thank you so much. I think the first thing to help with that is just finding out where are we, and the only way we can find out where we are is just with data. So my recommendation would be to first start off with doing an intersectional gender analysis of the kind of AI products that have been developed to understand, are they really meeting the needs of men, of women, of girls, of boys, of persons with disability, of different ethnic communities, and also to do some form of maybe a systematic review, a meta-analysis to find out, okay, the frameworks that are available. I don't think there is any AI-related framework, but the frameworks that are available, how inclusive are they? So, for example, in terms of Africa or globally, a systematic review was done, and they found out that of all the AI frameworks available, there was really nothing around gender. Some had things around fairness, some had things around maleficence, but nothing really about gender. And that already says that a lot of AI products and the operation is actually gender blind or at most gender sensitive. So that means that the product and service, the products that we are seeing are only serving a certain population group, and that means that it's not been harnessed enough for everyone. And so so just generating the right data to ensure that products are developed the right way. And like Dolapo also mentioned, and Chioma also alluded to, we also have to ensure that we co-create, use participatory approach to ensure that everyone's needs are met.
All right, so very quickly, we need to wrap up. I'm sorry, we have to, keep it bulleted. Now there's this second to the last one about public interest on the use of AI. There are over 200 million people in Nigeria, 500 languages, but all the AI systems are still coming to us in English. How can we make sure that everyone can use this technology efficiently, driving public interest and strengthening citizens' trust? Quick, Chioma. Quick.
I think one of the things that excites me about the AI Collective and Luminate's work in Nigeria is the convergence of a number of practitioners around artificial intelligence and just helping them to chart a path for the country. Very simply, the government needs to take the lead on this. As we all know, the government is the largest and the most efficient distributor of governance in any space. And so the government needs to take the lead on this. The government needs to fund AI collectives to ensure that these products suit everyone. These products are not just produced in Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, but that they suit people. We have products in Pidgin, for instance, which is a lot more universal than regular languages. So yes, my simple answer is government. I also just want to give a caveat to say that while government provides the infrastructure, the government must give room to civic space and to civic actors to develop the technology so that we don't end up with things like the Cybercrime Act.
Last question for Dolapo and anyone else would be, it's clear that we're dealing with marginalization for young people, for people with disability, and for women, and we don't need to go through that. How can we ensure that marginalized voices, including women, persons with disability, are amplified in the policy-making and implementation process for driving AI in Nigeria?
Quickly, number one, it must be explicitly set and cast in stone that discrimination will not be permitted and full participation will be enabled. You should have a checklist of everyone that should be there before you start. And for everything that's already existing, make sure that the testing, the feedback is from as diverse a group as possible. Ensure that it is clear that any platform, any application that is already in place should have a disclosure mechanism, that if the accessibility that you claim you have put in place is serving no one, the disclosure should be there. The consequence and the retrofit, the fix must also be embedded in it. And lastly, just make sure that for everything we do, keep it as universal as possible. Build for all from the beginning. And we're all ready to support in every way we can.
Thank you very much. Please, ladies and gentlemen, for this few minutes, I'm sure that your mindset is triggered. I'm sorry we can't take questions from the audience because we're running out of time. I would once again like you to appreciate the panelists as we go back to our seat. At least they will take a picture and then they can go back. Yes. All right, please put your hands together. You can talk to any of us outside of this place. We can engage with your questions. And thank you.